This is Fred Beck from Fred Talks Fighting. Today, I'm very lucky we're joined by Tom Gray. So, Tom, how you been, mate? What's been going on with you?
I'm good. Really busy coming off of the Fury Wilder weekend. Uh, I did some editing that night. I'd covered the Liverpool show. I wasn't there. I had to do that one from TV. I had some radio to do, some TV to do, some studio stuff to do. So come Monday, I felt jet lagged, to be quite honest, because I'd stayed up to watch the fight live, and just when you're as old as me, it taxes on you a bit.
So, do you normally stay up the whole night? You don't wake up?
No, I felt that bad, even though I went to bed. I didn't really get a great sleep. I didn't get to bed until after midnight because I'd been watching the Liverpool show. And so I got up and then I kind of struggled to sleep, and I was in and out. And I woke up about 3 o'clock, came down, and then I never slept after that. And I had so much stuff to do on the Sunday. Honestly, it was insane. It really was.
No, I think everyone does blooming stay up now. I normally wake up so I can get to sleep. But then again, if you have the Liverpool show, Smith and Fowler, you don't want to go to sleep because you have to go to sleep at like 10 o'clock, and that show finishes around about 11. So let's just touch on the Fury Wilder fight. Did you expect to do such a kind of dangerous and 50-50 fight going throughout it? Because no one really knew which way it was going to go.
I didn't expect it to be anywhere near as competitive as that. I felt that because Tyson had 19 rounds with him, he knew everything there was to know. I didn't buy into Wilder changing the style up too much. There was evidence of it to a degree, using his jab a bit more in the early rounds. But I always felt that Wilder would revert to type, trying to tear his head off, and that Tyson would have that covered. But I felt as if Tyson neglected his defences just a bit. Maybe a touch of overconfidence, and you can't give Wilder, a shot. You need to be on your A game, or he can make you pay. And to be honest, Fred, that right hand that caught Fury in the fourth round, the first knockdown, that was a finisher. I honestly do not believe that there's another heavyweight in the world that would have survived that. Because not just the weight of the punch. You've seen it shudder right down Fury's body, but it was where it hit him. It hit him in the temple. That removes your legs, takes your legs out, and for the most part, many fighters won't get their legs back, at least not in time to get up and recover. So he did really, really well to survive that knockdown. I think he was still buzzed come the second knockdown, and then from there it was all Tyson Fury. He, his skills are just way too great. And Doug Fisher, who's the editor-in-chief of the magazine, obviously put it best when he said that Fury is the first guy that Wilder's fought where he can put him over, he can put him down, but he can't keep him down. And because of that, Wilder's a great puncher, great home run hitter, one of the best in heavyweight history, but his finishing ability is non-existent. When someone gets up and they've got their faculties about them, he struggles to put together the type of punches required to finish it. Like, you need to go to the body, you need to maybe feint and draw a sloppy lead and come in with a massive counter. He's just coming after you, looking to land that big right hand over and over, and Tyson has that covered, even when he is slightly hurt. And then Fury came back, dropped him, and then knocked him clean out. There was no coming back from that.
Was when Wilder was kind of going to the body, jab to the body, 1-2 to the body. That was kind of Wilder using his new tactics to Nick Scott. But then you're right, as soon as he did get knocked down in the third round, then he kind of changed back to the old Wilder. Where do you think
Sorry, mate. Sorry, carry on.
Where do you think that Wilder goes from here then?
I've been asked a couple of times if I think he'll retire, and the answer is no. Plus, I watched that, or I read an interview with Malik Scott, and Malik Scott believes that he'll be back in the mix at a high level. And I think so, because even though he'll be very disheartened that he's lost that fight, it's the most impressed I've ever been with him. He didn't really win anything after round 4, but he was always dangerous. He touched Tyson a couple of times in the late rounds, and Tyson looked a bit shaky again. So he is very, very exciting. He's never out of any fight. There's heavyweights out there that he'll beat. To be honest with you, Fred, Wilder's the kind of guy that if he gets himself in shape and he's motivated, he could go out there and produce a big shock in a first round knockout, a second round knockout. If he catches you right, you're gone. And then because early knockouts are so dramatic, and that's what a lot of the boxing public wants to see, they'll start, they would jump right on the bandwagon again, saying that he's back to his best. He can turn in such spectacular performances that, coming off such a brave defeat, he could be right back on top and be very, very, very highly, still highly regarded, but his reputation could continue to soar just because of the style that he fights in.
Yeah, I certainly see what you mean there. I mean, he's there at PBC, so maybe they can do the Ruiz fight, because like the in-house fight, so that'll be an in-house fight for you, and they could do that on Cinco de Mayo, which would probably definitely sell out and sell a bunch of pay-per-views. And same question for Tyson. Obviously, do you think he fights Dillian White now because it's mandatory, or do you think that's going to go drag on and on and on?
No, I don't think it can drag on and on. I think you're going to get a conclusion of sorts. Dillian has got Otto Valen next, and he needs to win that in order to get to Tyson Fury. And I think that's a tricky fight for Dillian. If Dillian White's very hot and cold, sometimes he turns up and he looks pretty good and gets guys out there. Sometimes he turns up and he's not at the race. He looks in great shape though, which is a good sign. It'll be interesting because what you've got here is Dillian White is with Matchroom, I think, or Dillian might be able to go independent. I'm not 100%.
His management's well, his promotional is Matchroom, but he hasn't. I don't know 100% if it's on the zone, the Otto Warren fight.
Right. I mean, I think that Dillian is basically he's on a one fight deal with Matchroom. Like, he's not in a long-term promotional deal. So what he can do in regards to that, I'm not 100% sure. But if he is working with Eddie, it'll be interesting to see if Eddie, Frank, Tyson, BT Sport, all of that can get worked out seamlessly. Dillian White deserves this shot 100%. Particularly, he needs to come through Valen, but he deserves his shot at the world title. It's been the never-ending story. And I don't care how Dillian gets his title shot, he definitely deserves it. But I'm just keen to see, once the dust settles, if that's a fight that Tyson Fury truly wants. I mean, people, he's been very, WBC PR through the build-up to this fight, but he's not the kind of guy where you can turn around and tell him what to do. And because he's Ring Magazine champion, he's lineal champion, he would have the option of just saying, don't want the fight and going elsewhere. Now, I'm not saying he'll definitely do that, but I wouldn't take it for granted that Tyson definitely takes the Dillian White fight if Dillian does come through. If that is what transpires and Dillian White gets fighting for a vacant, again, providing he beats Valen, then great. I just want Dillian White to get a title shot because it's really, really dragged out now.
If the Fury fight doesn't happen, will Fury be up to franchise champion then? And the WBC belt, North belt, will be vacant?
I try to be very, very dismissive of that whole thing. I mean, the franchise distinction to me is just garbage. It just, and I've got a lot of respect for Maurizio Sulaiman, and the WBC do good things, but that is just like it's almost like a mandatory body swerve, and it's all set up for sanctioning fees, and I just don't buy into it at all. No, I mean, if Tyson was, I don't know if Tyson would definitely want it. I know at one time Deontay Wilder said that he didn't want the franchise distinction because he didn't view it as legitimate, and neither do I. And I'm not sure about Tyson, but I would, if he's not going to give Dillian White a title shot, it would be my preference that he just didn't have the WBC title. And he's reached such a plateau that he's on such a platform. I don't think he needs it. I don't think he needs any belt, in fairness. And I would rather he had the Ring Magazine title, but he's so on top that belts don't really make Tyson Fury at present, and that's just the reality of it.
Would you say Tyson Fury is a lot bigger star than Joshua now, then?
Very different. I think that Joshua is in the UK. He is holding all the aces, or certainly up until, you're only as good as your last fight, right? And I was ringside for that, and he was beaten pretty decisively, I felt. But he's still a massive UK attraction. There's no doubt about that. Now, he's got a little bit of pull in the States, but his one fight in the States, he lost by stoppage. Tyson has created such shockwaves, you know, in the States. I mean, even fights, Fred, where like, you know, your Tom Schwartz's and Otto Wallen, you know, we put on a show and kind of get his name going over there. So Tyson just now, to me, is more of the global attraction. He's got a huge following in the UK, but that is the main, to my mind, that's the strength that Joshua has, is his UK following. You just need to look at the stadiums. I mean, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was electric, absolutely electric down there. And he's made that like a regular thing. And no other fighter in the UK has been able to do that. Carol Froch had a taste of it, but you know, it's basically regular for Joshua. So that's his strength in the UK, like his fan base is enormous over here.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Everyone does mention how big a ticket seller Anthony Joshua is. I've never been to one of those stadiums in regards of boxing. So next time AJ fights next year, hopefully can go along. Just one other fight I want to touch on before I let you go is a Canelo Alvarez Caleb Plant fight. That fight's on Showtime actually, and it's on BT Sport, which surprised a lot of people over here. What are your overall thoughts on that fight? Because that could be a tricky fight, or it's a unification fight, which all the belts at 168 will be around the race of one person.
Yes, I'm delighted about that. You know, if the undisputed thing can get sorted out in a division pretty easily, like it was with Alexander Usyk when he was cruiserweight champion, like it became with Josh Taylor when he was at 140 and cleaned up without any political shenanigans. I'm all for it, and that's been the case really with this one at super middleweight. Yeah, I mean, I like Canelo in the fight. I think that he's getting better and better with every outing. You know, I thought he looked really well against Billy Joe Saunders, even though I had the fight tighter by the time of the stoppage. Even if I was giving Billy Joe Saunders rounds, it was all Canelo momentum. Even in rounds he was losing. People think that if you've got a fight close, that you're saying that the fighter that's kind of in it is doing better than, you know, like is winning somehow. But I had no doubt, you know, by the time that fight had reached the second or third round, that Canelo had him, because Billy Joe Saunders really just couldn't get anything going to put a dent in him, and that's important in a professional fight. Caleb Plant is, you know, really, really talented, very, very quick hands, good movement, fluid style. I like watching him. What it comes down to, in my opinion, is that he's just not mixed with anything resembling Canelo. And things will happen very, very early. He'll feel the experience off of Canelo very, very quickly, I believe, in the fight. You know, when you've got the small gloves on and you're getting hit with things that you've just never been hit with before, I think it'll be a bit of a shock. I think he'll stop him. It'll be great to have him. That's the first ever undisputed champion at 168 pounds. So he's going for history there, which is very, very important for him. And all the Mexican fighters that he's idolized down the years, certainly in the modern era. I mean, Julio Cesar Chavez was never undisputed in any division. Neither was Eric Morales, neither was Marco Antonio Barrera, and neither was, you need to get back to the 70s to get, you know, fighters that were undisputed from Mexico. So he's making his own piece of history. I think it's half a century since Mexico had an undisputed champion. So yeah, he'll be super motivated, and I think it'll be too much for Caleb Plant.
Yeah, I think that's kind of I don't really know what's gonna happen. I think that's kind of the public's overall opinion on it. Do you think Canelo can be, provided he does come undisputed, do you think he's making his way to being a greater fighter than any other Mexican fighters there have been before?
It's very difficult to say. I don't like judging when fighters are mid-career. Or he's not mid-career. He'll be nearer the end now than he is at the beginning. But you know, he's got some huge shoes to fill. You know, I just mentioned some of them there. You've got Olivares as well. I mean, these guys are, you know, just absolutely amazing fighters. Carlos Zarate. But I think he's on a level with most of them. I think if you went out and you know, you did a survey in Mexico, it'll be Julio Cesar Chavez. And if you do a survey in Mexico 50 years from now, regardless of what Canelo does, it will probably still be Julio Cesar Chavez. He's just so beloved and idolized in his country that it's kind of like he's kind of like the Muhammad Ali of Mexico. And I mean, even with myself, I mean, I was 6 years old by the time Muhammad Ali had his last fight. So I mean, I don't even remember him fighting, but I'll always say that he's the greatest. Some of it comes down to nostalgia. I'll always say he's the greatest heavyweight that ever lived. I know his career backwards, and I don't think anyone's been able to match him. So I think Julio Cesar Chavez kind of gets the same thing in Mexico. But Canelo, what I would say, by the time he retires, will be up there with the greatest Mexican fighters that ever lived. And I think realistically, that's all that he can hope for, to be the best in his era, which right now he is. He's pound for pound number one, and one of the greatest fighters out of a country that produces, it's like an assembly line of great champions, and he'll be happy with that.
He certainly fights everyone and everyone. I mean, how quickly he's been able to unify the 168 division is rather impressive. Right, Tom, thanks so much for time for
You're welcome
today. So where can people find you? If you want to follow you on Instagram and Twitter, where can people find you on those?
Twitter is best, so that's at Tom_Gray_boxing.
Awesome. I'll put that link in the description. All right, Tom, until next time. Thank you.
Thanks. Great speaking to you.